Haven't we heard this swan song before? Like everyone's so predictable at this point. They got to kiss the black baby, they got to shake the old people's hands. They got to tell some cute story about how adorable their husbands are. I mean, what are they going to say? This guy's a fucking asshole and he snorts cocaine off the nanny's ass. I mean, what are they going to say? Yeah, he's wonderful. Vote for him. Welcome to Raw Food. East Coast, West Coast friends kicking it and chatting as always. What's happening, my friend? What's happening on the West Coast this fine evening?
What is happening? The West Coast is the fresh coast. We're finally into our good weather part of the year, but the days are getting shorter. It'll be fall before you know it. It'll be football season before you know it. A lot to talk about there, but let's get into some of the other stuff that we talked about. How are you doing before we get into any of that? How are you? And what's it like over in New York right now?
New York is dealing with an unprecedented hotter than usual summer. Unprecedented amount of just random thunder and lightning storms at any given moment, and then sunny. So the weather's been really, really temperamental. It's almost been like San Francisco weather, except hotter, where you have 4 different weathers in one day. We are overwhelmed with the migrant situation. They're actually having them sleep on the streets until they open up more hotels, which I think is the most inhumane and ungodly thing I've seen in a long time. And where are all the Christians and where are all the churches? And how come they're not opening their doors and saying, bring the migrants here? I mean, half those people are probably fucking Catholic. Anyway.
Oh, that's a good point. We should do a whole episode on this latest chapter of this ongoing shit show that is the migrant crisis at our border. And
it's unnecessary. And it's a failure of policies on both sides of the aisle. It's a failure to demonstrate that God is in anybody's life. And I'm really tired of hearing about values when you have 140 people sleeping on the street around the corner from one of the richest areas in New York City. Nonetheless, it is happening and it's deeply disappointing to see.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Maui is on fire. It looks like purgatory.
Yep. Shout out to Lahaina. Peace and love.
Yes. Quite a situation going on. And it just seems like it's just a weird time in the world. I mean, I don't know what to make of it anymore.
Don't even start with this, with what's going on in Africa right now. We're about to have a war. And I know it's like, oh, of course, another war. No. This might be multiple countries in the same region all going to war at once.
Yeah.
That's that is worth a whole nother episode, the Niger coup and how that is being handled, and France with their, let's just say with the way they handle things, and leave it at that for now. Yes, there's a lot going on out there. Seems like a lot of things are in flux. And I only say the migrant crisis at our border to differentiate it between the migrant crisis that is going on in Europe as well.
Right. And I really wish we'd pull back some funding from the Ukrainians and give it to the Americans that need it. I mean, even the people in Maui, there's talk of giving them a, emergency fund, and it's less than $1,000. I mean, that's just ridiculous when we're sending, $6 billion over to the Ukraine. This just isn't making any sense. It's not making any sense. None of it is making any sense. And I think the price of this you're going to see in the polls. I don't think the Democrats are going to sweep this next election cycle. And if Trump does run, I think he's got a chance at winning, because this nonsense is inexcusable, to tell you the truth. I can't defend any of it.
I can defend the parts of Ukraine, but I do believe overall we kind of overplayed our hand here, and we missed a chance to strike a peace deal. I do believe that the coup in Niger was supported by Russia. Mali and Burkina Faso and what they've decided to do, they are also very clearly supported by Russia. And I do believe this instability in Western Africa is a direct or indirect result of influence by Russia. But you can't necessarily blame them or the Africans that are choosing to work with the Russians. Putin did go over there and start forgiving debt, whereas France is, reviled by all of the French-speaking African nations because, many of them are the poorest in Africa, despite being the most mineral rich in Africa. So These things are not unrelated, Ukraine and what's happening in Western Africa right now in the Sahel region. So yes, I do believe that's worth a very thorough deep dive at another point in time. And so is what's going on in Maui, or I'm sorry, I said Maui. I meant to say Hawaii, because first and foremost, Americans and everybody else, but Americans particularly, stop going there right now. They don't want you. Take that tourist money and donate some of it to anybody but the Red Cross. They got tourists over there swimming and snorkeling and surfing.
I know.
Counting their dead. There are still fires that are smoldering. It is not even 100% contained. And there are still tourists in Maui, even though they were asked politely to leave, that aren't leaving. And some of them are coming. I'm surprised the governor and the senator, I'm surprised that the governor and like the local head of the specific island of Maui, I'm surprised they haven't just gone ahead and shut down the entire tourism industry for a sec. You just say, we need donations for the next couple months. No tourists. You know, if you're coming here to a hotel, you better be a volunteer. I'm surprised. And God bless them if they do decide to do that. I'm happy to donate.
Right. There's quite a few celebrities who own properties over in Maui, so I'm not surprised that they're going to be seeing them there. Clint Eastwood has had property there since the 1970s. Owen Wilson has a property on the North Shore of Maui. Oprah owns over 1,000 acres, I think, of land. Steven Tyler owns a waterfront mansion. And Jeff Bezos just bought some property there in 2021 for about $75 million, is my understanding. So I'm not surprised at all that the celebrities will be flying in and out, checking out the conditions of their property.
Yeah. What the conspiracy theorists are already saying is that this fire may have been deliberate in order to clear these people out so that more of those types of developments could happen. There's no proof of that just yet.
Oh, like what happened in New Orleans? So like what happened in New Orleans after Katrina when the levees broke?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I really hope that's not the case, but damn it, you know, there's greater than a 0% chance.
Keep hope alive, my friend. You know me. I've crossed over to the dark side ages ago. I believe every conspiracy theory. I believe that the seed to every conspiracy theory is true. I don't know if the full blown blossomed tree is true. Most likely not. But the seed itself, where there's a candle, there's fire, no matter how small.
Yeah, like even if this fire wasn't deliberate, it doesn't necessarily mean that evil motherfuckers aren't going to try to take advantage of the situation.
Right, because there's always somebody lined up to take advantage of a situation.
Shit,
that's how most wealthy people got wealthy.
I mean, but like, look at the Red Cross. They got 500 million in donations for Haiti and only built 6 homes. That's not a conspiracy theory. ProPublica did years worth of investigative journalism and published that back in 2015. We know for a fact they didn't do anything with that doggone money, and a lot of it is missing and went to contractors and other people that were hired to go and do things in air quotes to help the Haitians, and none of that money made it actually to the Haitian people. And now people are out here shilling for the Red Cross again. Like there aren't any other NGOs or local nonprofits that are actually based in Maui or based in Hawaii that we can give to. Why do we need to give to the Red Cross? Why that one specifically?
Right. And it's amazing with all the funding that has ever been raised for Haiti, how poor that country still is, which really makes no sense. I think the Clinton Foundation has some responsibility in that. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, Hillary Clinton helped to oversee like $4 billion that Congress had put aside for recovery efforts. And you would imagine if $4 billion got put away for Haiti, Haiti should look like Dubai, but it doesn't.
Right. And that's the other thing. Like y'all don't want Haitian migrants coming here or whatever. Okay, well then let Haiti develop. Give them the money.
This country's always gonna punish Haiti. Haiti is gonna be punished for the rest of its life for being one of the only countries in the world outside of Ethiopia that was able to maintain its own autonomy. Ethiopia has never been conquered. Haiti was conquered, but overthrew their colonial leaders, but has suffered for that since.
Oh yeah, the French put them in debt by saying you owe us reparations for all of the slaves, for all the property that was lost because you're no longer slaves. You owe the people who owned those slaves reparations.
Yes. Because Haiti has owed a trade debt to France for almost $21 billion for years. So they're never able to develop themselves, even though they have one of the most lucrative commodities in the world, which is sugar.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Oh, and
disgusting.
also there's other chicanery that happened with Haiti since then. There's an instance, I believe, in the very early 1900s or very late 1800s, wherein U.S. military just went into their central bank and seized money there and took it.
Right.
Just completely effed over their bank, their central bank, or their sovereign wealth fund, or their foreign reserves. Either way, it's ridiculous, and also deserves another deep dive as well. So we can definitely get into those things, but today we wanted to get into the man who's always being talked about, the man who always wants to be talked about, one Mr. Donald
The man who,
Trump.
this guy's gotten more free marketing than McDonald's. It's like Candyman, and no one can stop saying his name, and he must just sit back and just laugh at all this. This guy's got more indictments than, Stalin. I'm starting to feel bad for the guy. This is just borderline ridiculous. All this is going to do is turn him into a martyr. I want to give him a hug, a bathrobe, and a cheeseburger. That's what this guy looks like he needs. His family's not by him. His wife is not by him. Everybody around him is indicted. He's been indicted across state lines like a fugitive. I mean, I don't understand. And to tell you the truth, I think nothing's going to come of this.
All right. First and foremost, he deserves those indictments. Secondly, his family's not by him because he's a bad person, and there's a reason why his family don't like him. Everybody who's around him is indicted because everything he touches, he turns to shit, and the people who he brings in close to him are his enablers. He doesn't allow people that would stand up to him to actually tell him no. That's why the people that are around him are all indicted, because to get close to him at all, you have to be a co-conspirator. He doesn't allow someone to get close to him who's going to try to, do the right thing. And yes, I do get where you're coming from. I think to his core fans, they already see him as a martyr. He's been telling people he's a martyr since his 2016 campaign, when he was telling everyone that the election was rigged before even knowing the results. Remember that?
Yeah. And not for nothing, all this is doing is making him look like he's right. I mean, how do you indict this guy on 34 counts across multiple states and the guy's still at home?
Because he's indicted.
It looks like he's being harassed.
He's indicted, but he's not arrested yet. Or, he turned himself in for a mugshot, but he's immediately out on bail. Which is, standard for white collar crime, right?
Right. But I mean, it's sort of like a shit or get off the pot at this point. I mean, indicted. Every morning you wake up, Trump's been indicted. It's like, Jesus, did the guy kill 4,000 people? I mean, please give me something. Like, I get it. The guy took the files. He didn't return the files, all this nonsense. Okay. But there's at what point does something manifest from all this? I mean, they're turning this guy into the Teflon Don.
So something's going to manifest after once we actually have the criminal trials. And Donald Trump, to his credit and to his advisors' credit, they are trying to slow roll this as much as possible. They're trying to slow the whole thing down because they want the election to happen before the hand. Trump doesn't need to win the election. Any Republican that wins, because they're all sycophants, they're going to give him a pardon anyway. So if he can just stretch this out and get people to think exactly what you're thinking, when is something going to come of this? I'm bored with hearing about the indictments. We're not seeing any progress with this. Well, now it seems like they may have indicted him for nothing because nothing is happening. That's what he wants. And all he has to do is slow this thing down until the election in November next year and January 2025.
Do you think he will be the Republican candidate?
I don't think he'll be the Republican candidate, but if a Republican wins, they're probably gonna pardon him, even regardless of whether of what happens with these trials, if he's been found guilty or if the trials are still ongoing. Donald wants all these trials still ongoing, and then day one he'll get a pardon from the Republican president the day they're sworn in 2025. That's what he's hoping.
Do you think he has a pardon that he has written for himself?
Sure. I'm sure his advisors have one teed up, and they want every Republican candidate to sign, to agree that they will give him a pardon in exchange for Donald Trump either stepping out of the race, and two, endorsing them. I could totally see them saying, everybody, get all 12 candidates or whoever on the podium for a Fox News debate. Raise your hand if you promise to pardon Donald Trump on day one of your presidency, and watch all of their hands go up, except for maybe one.
Right. So you don't think he's going to be the candidate? Who do you think will be?
I think he's running right now in order to garner as much attention and as many donations as he can, because he's already shown that he's using the donations for his legal defense fund. That's why he's running. The donations that he's getting, legal defense fund, right? And then also, it shows he still has sway within the Republican Party. And so even if he doesn't want to be president again, if he just has this much sway because he's still running for president, one, he gets to continue saying that, oh, this is a political hit job because I'm running for president. He still has that angle. And when he finally is okay with bowing out, he can say, hey, look how popular I am in the polls. I'm beating all of you in the polls. I will bow out in exchange for, you, the next runner up or whatever, promising me that you're going to give me a pardon on day one. And
right. Well, DeSantis would pardon him. I think Vivek would pardon him. Nikki Haley would pardon him.
Yeah, all of them except for Chris Christie would pardon him.
Yeah, Tim Scott.
And they would publicly promise that they would pardon him before.
I don't think Asa Hutchinson would, or Chris Christie, but the rest would.
Yeah, and not only would they pardon him, they would publicly tell everyone that they would as part of their campaign.
Right. They would actively market it.
Yeah.
Who do you think will be the candidate? Based on where we're at, obviously.
I think DeSantis doesn't actually have the charisma, and people are getting bored with him being a one-note culture warrior candidate. He doesn't have anything that he's offering anybody other than more culture war bullshit, and eventually people get bored with that. It was great to help him put him on a national stage, but what else do you have other than telling people to blame woke culture and CRT and gay people and minorities for every one of their problems? Aside from that, do you have anything that's going to make anybody's life better?
Right. No.
You have culture war bullshit.
Yeah, it's getting boring, just like these indictments. It's just the average American has the attention span of a wet chicken. So you can only talk about one subject for so long until you just lose the audience. I mean,
yeah, people are already bored, I think, with CRT. Right. But
because it doesn't exist, number one. And number two, I mean, we've been talking about it for so long. We get it. There's pushback. Nobody wants it. Great. There's nowhere to go with that because it doesn't exist outside of law school and college. So it's just a distraction. They tried to humanize him the other day in Iowa.
I saw that.
And the Iowa governor had to tell the audience to not be rude to him because he was getting booed on stage. And then he and his wife tried to do some kind of personal commercial where she talked about how loving he is because when she had cancer, he picked the kids up from school. And it didn't go over well because everyone's like, well, I mean, aren't you supposed to pick your kids up from school?
You
don't get a medal for that, let alone if your wife is sick. So why is that the selling point that you have to say as his wife? And she was all teary-eyed and clutching her pearls about it. I was like, I can't with this. This is, haven't we heard this swan song before? Like, everyone's so predictable at this point. They got to kiss the black baby, they got to shake the old people's hands. They got to tell some cute story about how adorable their husbands are. I mean, what are they going to say? This guy's a fucking asshole and he snorts cocaine off the nanny's ass. I mean, what are they going to say? Yeah, he's wonderful. Vote for him.
But most importantly, vote for me to be first lady, because that's what I want. I don't actually give a shit.
Right. And more importantly, vote for me. Right.
Yeah. Kiss the black baby. Yes. Now, kiss the black baby, shake hands with the old person, go do a photo op with some old veterans.
Yes.
And wave the flag,
Right. Roll up your button down shirt sleeves, wear the jeans, eat the ice cream, shove a hot dog down your throat, hit a baseball somewhere so you don't look completely reptilian. You can pretend to be a fucking human for a while. I mean, it's just so boring at this point. And I think that's what makes Trump so appealing, is that he doesn't do any of that stuff. He just goes out there and wiles out. I mean, I think he's politics aside, I just think he's a repulsive representation of the United States. But shit, this country is going to get what it settles for, and it's settling for that. Good luck
Yes, it is.
on this episode of Earth.
Now, check this out. The headline after headline, the kind of repetitious nature of all of these indictments coming out. Now there are 4 of them. People can't keep them all straight. They're just all over the place, and it can lead to people feeling overwhelmed, or people just feeling a bit of fatigue, and like you mentioned, feeling bored. I have the same theory with all of the stuff that we were told we needed to freak out about Trump doing when he got into office. Remember back in 2016, it was every week. It was a new thing that Trump was doing, that sources say he's doing this new horrible thing that we all need to freak out about. And after a while, it's like, I can't keep up with all the things I'm supposed to go protest about. Just,
Right.
And you and I stay plugged in. The average American citizen eventually is just going to start tuning, eventually the average American citizen started tuning out a lot of what the news was saying about, oh my God, Donald Trump did this horrible thing, because it's literally like, what did he do now? Which eventually served to benefit Donald Trump, because all he had to do was saying, look, every time you turn on the news, they have something negative to say about me. That's because the news is fake. That's because the news they're all controlled by the left. When actually, I think some of these news organizations, obviously, like setting MSNBC aside, we know there's a bias there, just like there's a bias with Fox News. But some of these news organizations were actually doing their job, and they were just reporting the shit you were doing, and you deserved all of those negative headlines. But the perception is that, hey, I can just poison the well. Hey, every time they report something negative about me, it's fake news. Every time they say something negative about me, they're all biased. They're all just leftist journalists, which is why he was
Right. But that's not true. I mean, that's not true. They might present the material they present on television might be of a certain slant, right, left, as you say. However, corporations as a whole are conservative organizations. It's not like it's not Wolf of Wall Street going on in corporate. It leans conservative.
Yeah, which is why I think the coverage of Trump changed after 2016-17 to, instead of saying like, here are the facts of what he's doing, we're going to have, here's what he did, here's the facts. We're going to have this person from the left argue with this person on the right, and the person on the left and the person on the right are going to say the same things over and over again. And we're just going to present this like it's a both sides issue, instead of actually, no, this guy is objectively doing bad. And I think they got to the point where they stopped even reporting the facts. They were just like, hey, here's this thing that we heard, and we got the left person, we got the right person, they're going to argue, and we're going to present this like it's, some people say this, some people say that. Like there's no actual objective truth anymore. And the tsunami of bullshit continues to the point where, nobody actually can pick apart or tell apart all the different things that are happening that Donald Trump is doing. And if you're on one side of the aisle, you just hate him. And if you're on the other side of the aisle, you just think he's a martyr, and then that's it. And there's no, actual objective truth never gets through to people who've just decided they love him, right? And I think the same thing's happening with these indictments. It's the same tsunami of bullshit. People can't tell them apart anymore. And eventually people are just going to tune it out.
I mean, can you blame them? There's too much other shit going on. The price of eggs is through the roof. Gas is going up again. They keep telling you that the economy is recovering, but, spending seems to be down. People are kind of reserved about what's going on economically. The housing market has cooled a little bit, but you still need, $600,000 to buy a house anywhere. Where are we going with all this? And to tell you the truth, this ain't making the Democrats look good.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking about this this morning. All of that spending from the pandemic is, we're paying for that now with the inflation that we're having. Now, every country spent a lot of money during the pandemic, which is why we have global inflation. We have global inflation right now. We are actually handling the inflation better than everybody else. The inflation in the UK, the inflation in Africa, the inflation in Europe, the inflation everywhere else is a lot worse, including Canada. But you can't tell that to people, because when they hear 5, 6, 7% inflation, they're like, what the fuck? That's still not good.
Yeah, but it's on the heels of having inflation at all. We shouldn't be sending so much money to the Ukraine. I'm sorry. It's ridiculous. When we have Flint still doesn't have water. Ohio has not been cleaned up. We have migrants sleeping on the street. It's not okay.
Well, that's exactly what Putin wants. And I think we had a chance for peace a little bit ago when Putin was on the back foot, and we didn't go for it because Zelensky didn't want to give up Crimea. And now that Putin has recovered from being on the back foot, he's figured out how to get around the sanctions, and he's doing this end around in Africa. He's saying, I see your Ukraine and I raise you France's influence and everything France benefits from in Africa. I'm going to stir the pot over here. I'm ready to.
Right. I mean, well, let's not underestimate Putin. If you really think he didn't know that he was going to get hit with sanctions, he knows all this. The guy's ex-KGB. He plans 12 steps ahead. Yeah. So he already knew the maneuvers of the Western countries. He knew what NATO was going to do, and he planned accordingly.
Yeah, he knew that the U.S. was not willing to get directly involved and start bombing and shit, first of all. Just like he knows we're not going to get directly involved and start bombing in Western Africa. He knows there's no appetite for that. And he knew, okay, you're just going to do a bunch of sanctions. All right, you're probably going to come after these businesses and stuff. And okay, yeah, he knew.
Yeah, that's no idiot.
Yeah, I think he has certainly outplayed Joe Biden. Because the other benefit to what he's doing in Africa is, he's done a bunch of photo ops with African leaders, specifically with, very young leaders. The youngest, global leader right now, the youngest head of state in the world right now is the president of Burkina Faso. He's 35. And they just did a photo op where Russia forgave a bunch of Burkina Faso's debt to Russia. Never mind the fact that the debt was bullshit in the first place.
Right.
Okay. And they also came to an agreement where Russia was going to give them grain. Now, why did they need grain? Well, Burkina Faso was getting their grain from Ukraine at first, but as part of Putin clapping back against sanctions, he's blocking Ukrainian grain from getting to Burkina Faso. So now he's coming in and saying, hey, I'll give you the grain. But what that does when it gets to social media is that erodes support amongst African Americans who are Joe Biden's base. Because they're like, well, look at what Russia's doing. We were told Russia's the bad guy. And then they get back to what you're saying. Why the fuck do we still need to keep giving money to Ukraine? But my thing is, they're not going to give that money to us. That money's not coming to us at all. The Republicans are going to block that. And to your point about housing, even if inflation is stabilizing and the economy is getting better, the price of housing was supposed to come down, but it's not coming down as much in New York and California. Why? Because all the people who bought houses back when inflation was low and interest rates were also very low, none of them are selling the houses. And at least in the Bay Area, nobody is greenlighting any new housing. The NIMBYs won't allow you to build any housing. So even though interest rates are high right now, prices should be coming down. They're not. Why? Because nobody's selling. So there's barely any demand and there's barely any supply, even though there's still some demand out there.
Right.
And we're not building any new housing.
Right. And when
new housing prices will be coming down though.
And when the economy is unstable and there's a war going on in the world, it's not really the time that people want to just start, moving and schlepping around. It's just not what they want to do.
Yeah. And people don't want to be told that the economy is getting better when they still can't buy a house because the housing prices still aren't coming down in any meaningful way.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah. And people don't want to be told you should be glad that inflation isn't as bad as it is in other places. You can't tell people that when their grocery bill has gone up, a significant percentage.
Absolutely. I mean, even the prices at Costco, man, every time I go to Costco, I'm shopping for 3 people. Every time I go to Costco, I spend $1,000.
Jesus.
And I'm not getting anything. It's one cart. It's not like I'm not coming out of Costco with 3 carts of food. It's one full cart to my car, and it's always almost $1,000 with tax.
Wow.
So what are people doing on a day-to-day basis who can't go to Costco and have to go to a regular supermarket or don't have me? Because the reason I shop at Costco is because it's such the best bang for your buck. But what if you're not near one? What if you don't have a car? I mean, honestly, I look around sometimes, I'm like, how are people making it?
Yep.
To be continued. The war will continue. Inflation will continue. The nonsense in this country will continue. And we'll remain on the sidelines, coast to coast, and report to you what we see. Good luck out there, kids, on this episode of Raw Food.
Damn right.